What's up, boys? What's up?
Howdy, howdy. It's pushing out some invites.
Yep.
And waiting for people to roll on through. We've got a request for speaker. Let's throw them up to co-host. Invite to co-host. Just make sure as people come in, we're pinging out constant invites to our community. Good to see everybody. For anybody coming in, checking out the space a little bit later, the space is sponsored by Zeno Mining, which is a NFT project which democratizes crypto mining, allows you to get all the benefits of crypto mining by buying a NFT. So they're the sponsors of the show. I wanted to have a look at the markets today, so I'm just opening up CoinMarketCap as we speak. And let's have a little squiz at the market. We're down 0.1%, $1.242 trillion. We're just sitting there pretty stable. That's quite funny. Trending number one is Lunar Classic. That is kind of funny because I saw that monkey foreskin eyes Do Kwon is getting extradited to the United States to hopefully spend his entire fucking life in prison. Hopefully that is the outcome. Bitcoin is up. Sorry, it's down 0.17%, holding at about 37.6. Ethereum is up 1% in the past 24 hours, up around 2,048. So quite interesting. Just having a scan through the market, we're looking relatively red.
Yep.
To be fair, right? About a 0.5% to 1% pullback across the board. So that's the state of play in the market today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking through my trading view, and there is definitely quite a bit of red. Although, for me in my time zone, it's just ticked over, I think, on the percentages. So, but yeah, looking red. I did see like some bullish action on a couple things today, but it looks like they pulled back. Overall, though, yes, I agree. How are we sitting on market cap? How are we, Mark? Are we down on market cap? 1.38 trillion. Yeah.
1.42. 1.42 I've got. Yeah.
Okay. So
down a little bit.
We're hovering in that 1.4 range. Then, yeah, steady as she goes, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. Plenty of space to move. But let's get on to the topic of discussion today. Let me lay the scene out. Today we are going to be just discussing the Elon versus, I guess, advertisers / seems to be targeted at one individual, his comments, Bob Iger. But to lay the scene, right, essentially we've got a situation where a number of, I guess, large advertisers within the X ecosystem are essentially threatening to pull all of their advertising dollars. And Elon's just basically saying, fuck you guys, whatever, I'm not going to be bribed. But if you go and have a little look at that further into that interview, what he does is he actually turns it back on Disney, essentially, and he's saying, look, if the advertisers stay away, this organization is going to go broke and go bankrupt, and I'm prepared to allow that to happen, and then the public will be the judge on how that happened and whose fault it is. So it's kind of interesting. He's playing a little bit of, I guess, cat and mouse there, and a little bit of, there's a bit of politicking there going on. What are you guys' thoughts on it? To our speaker panel, Vince, Suicidal, and Leo. What's your thoughts?
I actually support what Elon is doing, simply for the fact of kind of calling out a spade as a spade, right? How much leverage do people use in the financial aspect to crush businesses? especially when you look at the larger picture of trying to reduce the amount of censorship that's going on, the money the advertisers throw into it to kind of throw their weight around. I actually I actually like what he's doing. He's basically exposing what these companies are doing behind the curtain, right? Um, that's my opinion on it. I like what he's doing, and I think the public, if they wake the fuck up to the amount of corruption that goes along with the money, uh, will start to kind of see who's pulling the purse strings, the manipulation going on, etc., etc., etc. So I like it personally. So fuck the advertisers.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. I think it's, coming down to them trying to shut down the platform of freedom of speech and, having good conversations, on both sides of the aisle. And I think the other folks involved are trying to pull their ads, forcing Elon to, censor that. And so I'm agreeing 100% that Elon's like, no, I'm not going to do that. He paid billions of dollars for this company so that people could express themselves, whether you're Democrat, Republican, far left, far right, doesn't matter. You could come onto this platform and express yourself. Depending, of course, you're going to get some feedback, but whenever you put your opinion out there, you better expect that. So, cheers to Elon for holding his ground and not letting the money influence his decision making on that.
Yeah, how I see it is look at the past. Disney started as like a really family friendly environment. And then all of a sudden they went left. Then all of a sudden their backing went left. So it's like, and I don't know if anyone on Twitter or Elon pointed that out, but it's like, let's attack them now, because, and a lot of negativity, with the Bud Light and all that stuff. And so it's like, well, if you disagree, we're gonna, like you said, get you back, for calling us out, and and then Elon, his not him, but I think a couple other people in his organization were saying, let's get them back, and saying, if you're gonna do that, we'll make you make 1,000 to 10,000 people cancel their subscriptions.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with all of you, and I think maybe we get a partway into the show here. We can start crossing over into the conspiracy zone and maybe discussing some theories as to why this is happening. I mean, I think something that I think is closely related to this is the stuff with Media Matters. And this is my basic understanding of the Media Matters situation is essentially they're a non-profit. They seem to be some sort of left-wing organization, and what they were doing was fucking utilizing the algorithm in some way to essentially show that certain material was appearing next to objectionable material. So like all of the Disney posts that Disney is going next to this, like, I don't know, this propaganda or whatever. So they were falsely manufacturing that in a way that wasn't organic to then essentially take that to the advertisers to try and kill advertising. So to me, it's very clear that Media Matters and the left in general are essentially trying to shut down free speech. And that is a massive problem for me in my eyes. It's like we're all here. I'm reading tons of stuff on Twitter that I don't agree with for whatever issue, whether it's, like Palestine, Israel, or whether it's COVID-19 or whatever. I've read, like half the material is stuff I don't agree with, and isn't that the way it's meant to be in a society where we can have critical thinking, constructive debate, be civil to each other and disagree on certain things? It just seems like, why is it the left are just constantly trying to control this narrative? It's crazy. It's like a hangover from the COVID days as well. But I do want to cross over. This is what I don't understand. I'm really struggling to understand this. Is we have a lot of these large media companies, essentially, I guess you would say, Jewish owned. And this is just maybe me and my ignorance. I assume that the Jewish are conservative in their thinking. Why are we getting all this woke shit coming from these entities that are, I guess, in my mind, I would assume they're run by conservative type thinking people? I don't understand it. I'm pretty ignorant on it, so I'm keen to hear people's ideas and thoughts on this topic.
I'll start off. Mark, you are not allowed to be a free thinker. This is not allowed. You need to just fall in line and go along with the narrative that I tell you to follow. Okay? It's just that simple. um I think if you guys, speaking about what you're talking about with the amount of Jewish influence at a high level in corporate world, I think if it was legit or not. Kanye even made a video showing all the businesses in Hollywood, etc., that were ran by Jewish entrepreneurs, if that's what you want to call them. Find it very interesting that they're going along with this narrative. If they are true conservative, why would they? Why would they? It's a great question. I'm not sure I have the answer to that, other than the fact that greed, maybe money, when it comes down to it.
Isn't most of the media, especially in the U.S., pretty much owned by George Soros?
Well,
I think Murdoch owns a lot of it. But no, I mean, I don't spend my time, with the tinfoil hat on going through this shit. So, I think when you then, which is actually probably a good thing, right? I'm not sitting here spending hundreds of hours investigating all of this stuff. I think that then kind of allows you to take an Occam's razor approach and just look like, what's going on here? And just try and use some common sense. Because there's something going on within popular Western culture where the media, as well as large entertainment companies, are set and adamant on destroying society. There's something that it's almost like they're sabotaging society it's very fucking strange because I'm sure a lot of them don't believe it on a personal level because no conservative would. It's just incredibly strange to me.
I don't think it's too strange if you look at media outlets, mainstream, as purely propaganda. The perspective changes. Now the question becomes is who's controlling the propaganda? Who's controlling what the message is going out? Again, going back to money, if businesses that are getting funding from the U.S. government are not fitting or getting in line with the narrative that the government wants to push, i.e., electric vehicles, say, perhaps, right? Then or this social governance, right? ESG stuff. If you're not falling in line with that ESG, then your businesses are not going to be supported or by the U.S. government. There's not going to be any funding. You're not going to get any government assistance to your industry, right? Your specific business. So if there's a large pocket of funds going to businesses that are supported by or subsidized by the government, those businesses are going to just fall in line. That's my tinfoil hat. Gary, Leo?
Yeah, no, I was just say, well said. I think it's, they just want you to fall in line, do as you're told, not have an opinion, and then all's well for you, right? If you go against the grain, then they all think you have the tinfoil hat, and then they totally disregard what you have to say, right? And they'll go through whatever amount they can to discredit you and take away your opinion. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, so now what I want to ask is, what, if anything, are you going to be doing on a personal level? And anyone who's down and listening, who also wants to come up and share their views, what are you going to be doing on a personal level, if anything at all? Like, I know myself, I will definitely be canceling my Disney whatever subscription. I think we've got one. I don't know. My wife sorts that stuff. We've probably got one. I'll definitely be doing that. I want to hit Disney where it hurts, in the pocket, if they're going to start mucking around playing games with freedom of speech. So so just wondering, and would you even take that to the level of boycotting these products, to purchasing these products that these other organizations, would you take it to the level of actually finding out who these advertisers are and boycotting them? How do you guys feel about that?
Hell yeah. Full support. I haven't liked Disney in quite some time personally myself, especially with some of the messaging that they've come out with that's been very woke. The messages that they're trying to push, the restructuring of the films that they have to be, changing some of this stuff. I think a lot of the things that they have done definitely are things that I don't fit into my beliefs. So I simply don't do anything to put my dollars in their pocket. Now, I think the difficult part becomes is we as the majority have the power to vote with our dollars every single day. The problem being is that if you follow the money trail up the pyramid, all the money tends to go into the pockets of a few global companies. So it's very difficult for you to get away from that in the end, unless you can go local businesses, moms and pops, things like that, that are providing these business services or products, things like that. If you can vote with your dollars, vote with your feet, then that's the greatest thing that we can do, is to do that. It's not always easy, I think, because sometimes we're set in our ways with some of the products or services that we use. But that's our greatest power right there.
Yeah, going off what Vince just said, I mean, take a company like BlackRock. If they go liberal and leftist, I mean, they pretty much own everything. So it's like, who are you gonna buy from now?
Set up a garden, get a cow. Yeah, sorry, Surfer Dude, you're about to speak there. Sorry, mate, I cut you off.
No, it's all good. You had me at conspiracy theory. I not often in the spaces you get an opportunity to sort of speak freely like this, and just an open forum, I guess, for what the hell's going on. So I I've spoken to you guys about a lot of different stuff over the last sort of 6 months, but I actually pay attention to what's really going on in the shadows and the darker corners of a lot of this. And I think, when you look at what's happening with Disney, and the left and the political side of things, and how they're attacking Elon. They pretty much will attack anybody that has a free thinking mind, anyone with a free speaking voice, and it's quite alarming because they don't really care how much they destroy you. They don't care even if you die, because if you're speaking against their narrative, then that's a significant problem, and that's concerning. And you dealing with what we're seeing with Elon is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the largest case in the world, essentially. He had to buy Twitter in order for the freedom of speech to prevail, for the corruption to a degree to stop, and for people like us to be able to have a voice. Because when you think about it, if he hadn't have bought Twitter, how much nasty shit would still be going on? How many people would still be silenced brutally? How many people would have lost their voice completely? With how Twitter was behaving beforehand, and the bizarre thing for me is that, and this is something I'm still really trying to get my head around, and I don't think if this doesn't get reeled in soon, I think things are going to probably start to get quite nasty, because they've had it's either the House or the Senate in the US. They've had hearings where people have testified about what the influence the US government, or particularly the FBI, had to Twitter, and basically them being able to say, we don't know what this person's saying. Can you please just cancel their Twitter account? This was happening a lot, but just before, I think, Biden took over in the government, and nothing's been done about it. Not a single person's been held to account. No one's. It's like it's just completely fallen on deaf ears, and this is just one of many, many, many cases. And I don't know whether you guys have been seeing what's happening with Disney, but obviously their stock price has been plummeting now since 2021. But it is not the lovely place that a lot of people that it once used to be. I come from an incredibly messed up life and family. We were involved in some pretty nasty shit that I managed to escape as a child. So I pay attention to other survivors of similar sort of experiences to me, and some of these young kids in that have testified, or sorry, not testified, have shared stories of things that were done to them at Disneyland. And it's like, this is scary stuff of what is actually going on in the shadows of places like Disney. So it's not surprising that their business is really, really struggling, because eventually what's happening in the shadows comes out into the public, and people start to see it for what it really is. And it's scary to think that so many children are walking around this place when there's actually a lot of really nasty stuff that's going on there. One guy recently who was he was employed to be like fairy godmother, ended up getting caught with 600 different pieces of child pornography on his computer, and some of them were babies being raped. And it's like, and you're a what? You're a fairy godmother walking around at Disneyland? What the hell is that? You know, like there's some seriously dark stuff going on that, you know, like, and it wasn't until he got caught that he got fired. So they would have happily have allowed him to carry on. And it's like, these people are full-blown predators, and they've been employed in these roles. And it's like, this is one of many, many, many cases of stuff that I've read about and heard about and stuff, and had listened to people talk about. You know, so if this stuff, if you know, and honestly, the left and what I've seen of the Democrats, like it makes me want to vomit what they're being allowed to get away with. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of Republican stuff too that is like, oh shit, that's not good. But I think this stuff has to start being reeled in, and people need to start being held to account. Because if people are able to keep on getting away with this kind of thing, and there's no law, there's no justice in this, whew, where is the justice going to come from? Because there's only so long that free people will tolerate this. And I've been sitting back and I've been watching this happening for a while now, and it's concerning. And seeing them trying to talk to, you know, do to Elon what they're doing, and now he's telling them to get fucked. It's like publicly on live TV. It's like he's had it. You can tell he's had enough, you know. And I think, look, Elon doesn't have everything perfect, but I think he's really, really trying, and I really commend him for that. And I just think Disney is slowly being caught out for, you know, they lost $1 billion in their last 3 movies, because they're just trying to be some woke business that a lot of normal families that just want their kids to have a fun time, they're no longer that company anymore. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Like, I got man, I'd have you guys here for freaking hours, but Seba, what's up?
Yo, how's it? No, hey, I was going to say too, there's been a cruise ship in town as well, eh? So Disney's on the water as well. Came into New Zealand, so yeah, now they're on the water now, so they're all over the place.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole cruise ship now that you can go there and play Disney, encouraging kids to go on the ship. Yeah, so it was in Auckland last week, I think. So yeah, so might be down your way by now, surfer dude.
Might say what I'm thinking.
All aboard.
Yeah, Disney Cruise actually has their own island, I believe, too, that they pull into, and you can stay there while the ship is docked in, I believe.
Yeah,
Wow.
did you guys hear about the article of one of the Republican senators put in to try to get the flight logs for Jeffrey Epstein? And I guess it was today or yesterday, one of the Democratic senators blocked it, trying to block it from what they got to hide, you know? It's like, you know, it's like, why are they hiding that? Come on, out with it, you know? Well, I'm sorry, Bill Clinton. Yeah, you've probably been over there 20, 30 times, and, you know, it's just freaking disgusting. It's like, what do they have to hide? What? It's just blows your mind. Soft on crime, soft on murderers, soft on freaking pedos, and it's like they want this. They want the world to go to hell. It just all falls into their agenda and everyone's mental. It just seems like they're pushing their mental game on everyone. It's slowly been in play over years and years, and it's just starting to come into effect. But I think most people are starting to recognize it. But it's like that should be a no-brainer. If you should be requesting those files, let's see who is taking the pedo flights over there. Let's get these people behind bars. You know, I don't care if you're a former vice president or not. You know, I don't care what Hillary says if it's her husband. If he's got to go, he's got to go, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, real quickly, everybody, if you wouldn't mind, please, as we enter halfway through the show here and kind of do a little bit of a reset, but if you can click that little bubble in the bottom right hand, please go ahead and push out repost of the space. See if we can get some more eyes in here as we talk about some very sensitive topics, I think, when it comes to censorship and money and its influence over business and people. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Staba. Staba, go for it, my man.
Yeah, sorry to say, Rose, but I've only got a few minutes left. I've got shit to do Friday afternoon. But I just wanted to say the the other day I watched the documentary and I couldn't believe it. God rest his soul, well, fucking Elvis Presley. But you go back in those days, he was encouraging young girls at the age of 14 to go to his place. So at the end of the day, it wasn't looked upon in those days, but yeah, so that's a big influencer in the day. Elvis Presley, great singer, but yeah, did things wrong, but wasn't wrong in that year.
Yeah, I think from a legal standpoint, I believe that there were certain states that it was okay to have a relationship with a 14-year-old. I have read that. But yeah, I guess it's all part of, like, everyone does have flaws, even the greatest people. I mean, even Muhammad Ali was just a notorious root rat who used to just bang heaps of chicks, and he was rooting all over the place. So I guess no one's perfect, but staying on track of this conversation, what I'm really now looking at, and it's very interesting that we're sort of talking about Epstein, and maybe we'll go into this deeper. I'm now like, here is the conspiracy theory or what have you, is that politicians, celebrities, what have you, were taken over to this island, and they were essentially stitched up in that they were caught in compromising positions. Videos were taken, and essentially they blackmailed and being controlled through government, media, and what have you. So, I mean, that that is the common conspiracy. I'm now looking to see how people are speaking in relation to this event that's happening in Israel at the moment. So I'm now looking at that and saying, okay, who's saying what? Because I think obviously just because you're supporting like Israel doesn't mean you're a pedophile. But I think there's certain people who are, it actually goes against their core beliefs and core principles, who are now like all in on war and whatnot. Those are the people I'm now going, why the fuck are you saying that when it actually goes against your core principles of what you would normally say? So yeah, and I was actually thinking a little bit the same about Elon, as like, have you been compromised in some way? And I think this whole event has actually confirmed to me that he hasn't. That's something that's really, I think, important that's come out of this is, he is not corrupted. He's willing to say what he needs to say, which is really important. I think for myself, I'm now going to identify these companies that are giving X and Elon a hard time, not just Disney, and I will be personally boycotting these products if I can. That's my position. But over to you, Sam. Thanks for coming up, brother. What are your thoughts on this topic?
I think it has to do with a multitude of different things. Just for the fact, I mean, I'm honestly one of those people that generally believes that the Democratic Party has kind of became so extreme to the point they pushed out anyone moderate, and they're basically just about socialism. Call me crazy if you want to, but it's obviously freaking there. And I feel like they have certain ways of kind of going about certain things in order to, further um, socialist agendas. But I also think that it has to do with the fact that we have a very deep state problem with child trafficking and pedophilia, because the war on drugs apparently didn't do enough to fund whatever secret missions the U.S. is doing behind our back. But to me, it's it's a deep rooted problem because I mean, even whenever you look at news stations like ABC and you look at James Gordon, who was a former, investigative journalist for a liberal media site, arrested for child pornography. Slade Somer, who was a investigative journalist and really heavy hitting on debunking conspiracy theories like Pizzagate, all of a sudden comes out with, oh, he had a bunch of child pedophilia on his hard drive and on his computer. And then you have other, people like, Dan Spielberg and multiple other very disgusting individuals and like Nickelodeon and Disney who always come out where they get accused of inappropriately interacting with the children on the shows. Like it's just one thing after another. It's like right in people's fucking face, and no one wants to pay attention to it because they think it's too crazy to be true. So that's my opinion on it. And I feel like Elon recognizes that, and he's one of the only people that are willing to provide a platform that doesn't censor that content. Or even whenever it comes to trans people, for example, like which I have nothing against trans people who are legitimately trans, like my moms are gay, but there is the new transgender movement with trying to push it on children and stuff in order to get them to say that they can consent to having their bodies changed, to eventually consent to what else can a child can consent for from there. Like it's all like doing things in the name of progress and putting a pretty name on it, when really they are just trying to create more control. Like even down to Joe Biden's infrastructure bill, which has who basically allows him to overtake the entire industry over the internet. We have the FCC, the leader of the FCC commissioner, literally released a statement pointing out about how this infrastructure bill will allow the U.S. government to basically have, full control over the infrastructure around the internet in the U.S. And they were already passing restrictive laws to prevent, equipment from going up. In certain neighborhoods during COVID, which basically just left a whole bunch of expensive equipment laying around in just fields, and then they're coming in blaming, the industry for the problems that they caused, and then they're going in and they're trying to overtake and overstep it through this bill that's supposed to be about progress and freedom and helping the American people. And I just feel like it's just one giant bullshit game, because there's also been claims of child sex trafficking in Ukraine. And, and whenever you look at families like, the Clintons, and you look at like, their friends like George Bush and the Biden family, what type of business dealings and stuff was, Hunter Biden doing in Ukraine and in China that, he was able to launder, money from. And like, why isn't this stuff being pushed through Congress to be talked about? And why are you suddenly a white supremacist if you point it out? Like it's all just one giant game, and like Twitter is like the only place where you can actually discuss those topics. And advertisers like Disney, who are part of the cabal, don't want anything to do with it because it goes against their bullshit scheme. But yeah, that's my entire opinion on it.
Yeah, I very well said, Sam. And it's kind of like, they're saying the Democratic Party is saying that kids can make the choice to transition, to castrate themselves with medicine or a doctored procedure. So they're saying that kids could make that decision, but yet they want to enforce that you have to be 21 years old in order to buy a firearm. That get your mind right right?
I like what Nigeria did. They passed a law where pedophiles get the death penalty and rapists are forced to get chemically castrated. I'm like, that's what we
Yeah.
need to do right there.
Yeah, for sure. That just blows my mind. Yeah, we're going to let children decide if they want to be boys or girls when their teachers are pushing some agenda upon them. But yet they're saying you have to be 21 in order to buy a firearm, and they're trying to push their agenda. What kind of sick-mindedness is that? These people need to get freaking real. How disgusting.
Couldn't agree with you more, bro. And I think that's certainly a topic for discussion in an entire space, right? Like that literally just infiltrated itself into the New Zealand education system. I was completely shocked last year as a parent when I received an email that said essentially all of these leftist ideologies were now not only going to be taught from literally year one of primary school, but it just scales up all the way to you get to like your last 4 years of high school, and you're getting full blown education on these fucked up ideologies. And so part of that, even at primary school level, for where my kid, like my son, starts his first year next year, my daughter's year 3, they're no longer allowed to line up as boys and girls. They're basically not allowing this segregation of kids on gender. No longer allowed to have toilets named boys and girls toilets. Everything has to be commingled. So it's absolute insanity. And then when you get to the nitty gritty of it, it's like even you speaking to the principals and what, no one believes this shit. No one believes it. No one buys into it, apart from this tiny portion of society, which is like probably like I'll give it credit, probably like maybe 10% at best, 10 maybe 15%. How the fuck has that ideology been allowed to become mainstream? I mean, I'm with you, Sam. If you're a grown adult, you grow up, whatever, and you decide to become gay or trans or whatever, you're born like that. No, I don't think any sort of normal person has anything against people having their individual rights to do what they want to do. But I don't remember having anything education-wise as far as sexual education at high school, apart from like maybe one term where you had to go in, you learned the birds and the bees. This is how you get pregnant. Don't root any chicks because you're going to have a kid. Like like it's like that's how it should be, just like a basic level of understanding. But it has gone haywire. It's over here. Fortunately, we just had a change of government to the right wing. My man, Winston Peters, the voice of reason, he got that through the coalition to essentially say that is all going to be scrapped and we're going to get rid of that crazy shit that's happening here in New Zealand as well. But I really feel sorry for you guys because you guys are under a brutal attack at the moment from all of this craziness.
Yeah, it's kind of some bullshit, but I mean, like, I have nothing against. Like, the thing is, a lot of the trans movement, like, even is starting to piss off a lot of trans people who are legitimately, fully, actually, trans and recognize their biology and do what they have to do in order to basically be comfortable and psychologically sound from their dysphoria. But then you got people
Bro,
who are completely just abusing it and using it as a way to just groom fucking children and manipulate
they're pedos,
society.
bro. Here's who should be really pissed off, right? And this is what I feel the people who should be truly pissed off at the moment. It's like, one, women. Women who went through all of this bullshit and they've had to fight for a long time to get, I guess, what would be deemed, equal rights and their recognition within society. And I feel we're at that place now, and that's how it should be, right? They can go and do what they want, have a career, and do all of these things. If you want to be a woman and join the infantry, cool, fucking do it, no problem. It's like that we've made it to that, to be hijacked by these dudes, essentially, who are essentially trampling on female rights. I think that's like the one group that should be really pissed off. And then second, I really feel for gay people who are just like, because if you speak to gay people, most of them aren't into this trans shit. So they've been lumped in with this, like, remember it was LGB, was it? Lesbian, gay, bi, or whatever you were. Well, the T, they've just attached themselves to it to try and make it as though it's part of the same movement. It's totally different shit. And so I think those two particular groups should be really aggrieved. But anyway, I've spoken too much. Surfer Dude, what's up?
No, it's all good, man. All great, all fantastic points, and I'm trying to remember where my mind was about 2 minutes and 5 minutes ago. One thing that like I was pondering on this the other day. We're lucky. We're still lucky in New Zealand, and I'm actually glad to hear it because I didn't realize that Winston was going to push so hard for that. But that we can get a little bit of sense back in New Zealand by, turning around all those laws and rules within schools, because forcing all that crap on kids to have to, boys and girls can be in each other's change rooms and stuff is absolute madness. But you guys in the US, you've got your work cut out for you, and it's really interesting because I think a majority of probably Republicans are quite passive people, but I think with how hard the left is pushing for all of this insanity ideology, you're almost at the stage where they're going to have to start getting like seriously vocal about this, because you wait. So I think it's every generation for like the last few generations, in young people, their percentage of kids that have become LGBTQ has been like doubling, and I think we're at the 20% mark of this generation now, the Gen X or Z or whatever is the young one. So the next one will be 40, and if we keep doubling, and if the one after that is 80%, what does that look like? It's like, holy crap, because then you've got 3 generations in society living that I don't even know how to explain what that's going to look like, because look at how things have gone at 20% now. I think there isn't going to be a lot of sense made for a lot of stuff. It's just going to be chaos, and I to the point where they're already pushing so hard that if you don't, and they say they're all about equality, bullshit. If you don't agree with them, they will yell and scream and go psycho at you until you are forced to move, or make it very, very awkward for you. And if you are at a stage where 80% of society of the younger generation coming through is like that, it's going to be really, really difficult to fathom what that looks like. And one example recently for me that sort of shocked me is there was a movie that came out, The Sound of Freedom, and Jim Caviezel was the main actor in it. And it's based on a true story of a guy, Tim Horton, who I think is from the US, and he devoted his life to, in his later stages, I think he was in the armed forces earlier on, but he devoted the later stages of his life to rescuing kids that were stuck in child prostitution, human trafficking, child prostitution. And before I'd even seen the movie, the amount of trashing and conspiracy theories that came out from the media about the actors and stuff and about the movie was actually sickening. And then when I watched the movie, I was just about in tears at the end of it, because it's like, this guy has really genuinely fought for these kids' lives and has shown what is actually going on with human trafficking and child prostitution. And then you see the way that the media has treated him. You got to believe that they're complicit in this somehow. I just can't understand. You only attack someone usually if you're fearful or you're guilty. And look, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it, because when you see how they were treated and what the movie stood for, you're like, well, it's a dark place, that's for sure. So,
Leo, brother.
Yeah, the one thing that you've in the last 2 years that you've seen as far as stats is in the U.S. is the increase of private schools and homeschooling because of the public schools and that movement. The private schools and the homeschoolers have increased dramatically.
Sam.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that um, that movie, The Sound of Freedom, had like 4 years of getting denied from different production agencies from actually taking on the movie to get it produced and distributed for uh, like actual theaters until Angel Studios picked it up and essentially took a bunch of donations to make sure that that movie um, got out. Like a lot of that stuff was crazy because they were even having like random broken air conditioners and like um, electrical problems and stuff at certain theaters when that movie did make it to get played. Like the whole thing around that movie was extremely weird. According to which Slade Somer, who was arrested for child pornography, um, wrote an article criticizing that movie. So it's kind of funny to see that.
yeah, I remember reading about those um, so many cinemas just couldn't show it, and even in New Zealand, we when it came out in the US, it didn't come out in New Zealand for like, it was like 4 or 5 months after that, because there was a massive petition online and tens of thousands of people signed it. It might even have been significantly more, and in the end, they had to show it, and it's like, why is it that we, when it comes to wanting justice for kids in this capacity, we have to fight so hard to get these kids to be able to have a voice, to be able to share their story, to be able to reveal the dark shit that's been going on, and to them, you know, child sexual exploitation, I believe, is the most valuable criminal industry in the face of the planet. It's worth more now than drugs, because you smoke drugs once. You don't do that with children. You can do it as many times as you want, and oh man, yeah, I could go. There's That's just one part of what's going on with this. We haven't even touched on the adrenochrome side of things, and that's even much more darker than it's, I guess it's all sort of a part of it, but and it's very sort of conspiracy theory based, but it seems the adrenochrome side of things and what they do to people and young children to get adrenochrome is one of the most darkest secrets that is going on. But again, it's slowly been coming out. But if they try and shut down every story to do with it because they don't want to be caught. And I think, you know, how long do we keep going on with these injustices towards kids and stuff, where these atrocities are happening until people en masse all across the face of the planet have just had enough? You know, I hate talking like that, but it's becoming more and more of a reality because, you know, these people's children go missing. And I think it was like 6 million children are missing in the world right now. It's crazy to me, you know. And I think, you know, Fleece has talked in the past about, you know, having his spot of land up in the bush, you know, and being able to get away and, you know, enjoy having your family up there, and, you know, you get your food and everything, and your enjoyment up there, because it's getting to the stage where if I just keep just being a normal man with solid values of how I grew up that are not that wild and crazy, just a normal, decent life, you know, and 10 years' time, is the world going to be so crazy that I'm going to be considered a lunatic for thinking the way I do, you know? So it's like, oh, well, just get that block of land, stay up in the bush, and let them have their fun. I'll be up here with my family doing my thing, man. So we'll see.
Good chats, bro, and that's certainly the dream, right? I think Leo was sort of touching on that with homeschooling. I know that's the direction we're heading. I just don't have faith in the education system like whatever the learning side of it. I don't think that's a big part of it, but yeah, it's too risky nowadays to have some teacher who's got some woke ideology brainwashing your children, and then essentially there's nothing you can do about it because you're not even allowed to know what they're talking about. So that's messed up. But I do want to bring it back online to this topic, and let's say round it out over the next 10, 15 minutes. I know Paul's just finished work. He's on the Dogface account, but yeah, what are your views, Paul? I'm not sure if you caught the clip on with Elon basically saying, look, I'm not going to be blackmailed and all this stuff. Yeah, what are your views, bro?
Man, what a great space. We've talked about Disney, we've talked about Joe Biden, we've talked about Elvis Presley, we've talked about child pornography and sex trafficking. Like, you guys are all over the place tonight. Not in a bad way. I don't say that in a bad way, but in a good way, because we're talking about some good topics that are important. But I did see that go out. I'm actually on my way home right now to watch a Disney movie. But I'm joking. Yeah, I think, you know, it's kind of goes along the lines with everything else you've been talking about tonight. Like, people are going to personally push their narratives in any way they can, whether it's for money, whether it's for personal gain in a different way. Like, and Elon's the fucking man to stand up and say, fuck you. Like, I love it. That's how everybody should be. Like, when the trans community is, you know, shoving their narrative down your neck, just say, fuck you. Like, to each his own too. Like, and again, I agree with the statements in the space where, you know, when you're an adult, you want to do what you want to do, go for it. But don't shove that shit down my throat or my family's throat or my kids' throats, because that's your views and your feelings. And I think that's the biggest thing here, is like, Elon's a pretty factual guy. Like, he's about facts and data, and like, he's a smart dude. It's not about feelings. Facts don't care about feelings. That's a song. Go look it up. But this is the truth in the matter, is like, you're talking about somebody else that's sharing their feelings. Well, fuck your feelings, man. Like, I'm into facts. What are the facts? What's the evidence? Where's the data? And I think that's what, like, a lot of these topics you're talking about, that's the difference. A lot of this has to do with people's feelings. And I'm sorry, but I don't care about, like, your feelings if there's facts and there's data and there's evidence that proves otherwise. And that's what's important to me. because that's what I live my life off, not of people's feelings. Like, if you don't feel the same way I do, that's cool. We can still be friends. Mark, you and I have been friends for a while now, man. We don't agree on everything, but that's part of what makes us friends. We don't have to agree on everything. We can have conversations about things and not agree on them. Sometimes I'm a better man for it because you might share something with me that I'm not thinking about or that I'm not seeing a certain way. And so I think what Elon's done by saying, basically throwing up the middle finger and saying, I don't care about your feelings. I think it's great, man. And I've been a Disney subscriber for a while. I've been to Disneyland. I've been to Disney World. I've taken my kids multiple times. I went as a kid. I lived in LA for several years. Like, after seeing what I've seen, and again, like, not based on my feelings, based on facts and evidence, and like reading more into it, doing my due diligence, not just watching a 1 minute clip and then making a decision.
I think Paul may be just ragging a little bit there.
Yeah.
I know he's going through the bush. Maybe we'll just give him a couple of minutes to clear through the bush there. And you're just ragging a little bit, Paul. There you are. You're back.
I'm heading up the hill, man. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to rant, man. I know you're trying to wrap things up, but yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, yeah, people's feelings get in the way too much. And that's not important. The facts are important, the data, the evidence. Stop thinking about and worrying about your feelings so much.
Big time, bro. I think, and I see Vince, you're going to have chat here. I'll just have one little comment on that. I think it's really important what you're saying, particularly you and I, right? We're friends and we don't agree on everything. I think, maybe ask yourself this, like, when was the last time you did a 180 on what you think and what you believe? When was the last time you questioned one of your ideologies and did a 180 because you were open to listen? And then you learn some shit, like, or do you just know everything? Like, that's my question to you, because I've done a 180 on a number of things. So I've done a complete 180 on how I feel about your guys' Second Amendment. People will know when I came into this community, because we over here, we have a very, very strong, like, anti-weapons ideology. And that was the way that I believed, because we'd had a massacre here, and essentially we just see what's happening in the States with the schools, and I was like, you guys are crazy. Get rid of these guns. And then you start to know the people, and then you be open-minded, and then you realize, oh, wow, there's a lot of nuance about this. That, like, the Scots-Irish have had guns over there. Okay, well, it's impossible to get rid of guns, and like, it's part of the culture, and there's actual, like, real crime over there, so you need to be able to defend yourself and all these sort of things. So I made a complete 180 on that position, and that was like because of learning about the nuance from Paul. I also did a complete 180, I guess. Like, I was fence sitting during COVID-19, but I certainly didn't think there was a global conspiracy or anything behind it. And unfortunately, the other day, my wife, yes, thank God she's left the space. I had to admit that I was wrong. She was actually in there for a while. She's left the space. Don't tell her, guys. She was right, and I was wrong, and I did a complete 180 on that. So I think, like, that is something we all need to be able to do, is question our own beliefs and ideologies. Sorry, I was handed back to you, Vince.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up the fact that I think that, kind of like what Paul was saying is, we have, as a society, come to place feelings in front of facts, right? The fact is that people want comfort. They want security. And with freedom, there's not always a comfort to it. It's freedom is a dangerous thing. Um, and it can be from the standpoint of, I may not like what other people do in their lives. I may not like how they live. I may not like what they have to say. But the thing is if we value freedom, then we value the fact that those people can say what they want to say. I don't have to like it. That's my fucking problem. I have to deal with it. But if I don't think that they have the freedom to say that, then I'm for censorship and I'm for people being censored. And that is a slippery slope in itself, because now I am saying you don't have a voice anymore. We all should have a voice. We all have the freedom to speak and share our thoughts. And the problem is that we've gotten to this feelings point where you and I may not see eye to eye, and whoever feels like, no, you have to think like I do, they try to shut that other person down, right? Instead of having an open dialogue to discuss these differences and be okay with it, because everybody comes from different experiences, different things that they growing up. It's exactly like what you're saying with the Second Amendment, right? Living where you're at gives you a different perspective. Living where we're at gives us a different perspective. Does that mean that one is right and one is wrong? It just makes it different. But at the same time, can we have a discussion around it? And still, even at the end of that discussion, we may not see eye to eye, but we can still have conversation, still be friends, right? We don't have to see eye to eye. And I think that's the thing is, everybody's expecting this conformity. You would need to conform to how I think or how I feel about a situation. Fuck that. Everybody's an individual. Have your own thoughts, your own opinions about things, but don't base it on opinions or feelings. Base it like what Paul was saying. Base it on some of the facts. Sam, I'll pass the mic over to you.
I mean, for me, it's more than that. It's just the fact of what role do we really want government to play in our lives? Like, do we want them to have the capability to just come and knock down our door and take out your entire family, or throw you in a camp? Because that's what happened in Nazi Germany. Germany wasn't always extreme and full of a dictatorship, and then all of a sudden they become a dictatorship, and the government is going around um, wrapping up its citizens and killing them. So for me, like, the reason to have guns is it provides a proper balance of power between the people and its government. And not only that, the government's role shouldn't be massive. Like, at the end of the day, the government's only role is to defend its people. And anything beyond that is just an overstep of government power, whether it's good or bad. And and I'd much rather have a a free market capitalist society where everyone is contributing to the common good and being rewarded for it based on the amount of effort and work and value that you bring to the table. But unfortunately, we've gotten too much money embedded into politics to the point to where everyone as a politician is bought by it, and it's become completely inequitable because they wouldn't leave it alone. If it was left alone, it would have balanced itself out and corrected itself based on the adjustment of supply and demand, and just the way that economics work in general. But I personally am for at least amount of government power as possible. So that's why we have the Bill of Rights to begin with, from freedom of speech to be able to speak against your government and not be oppressed for it. You have your right to defend yourself and the right to bear arms, and we have the right to not have troops quarter in your home. All these are reasons to create that separation of government and and its people. So those laws are very important, and the moment we take them away, um, you're leaving power in the hands of people that haven't had our best interests in heart for several decades, if not a century. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, see, Sam, this is really interesting, bro, because of like this global nature of what we're doing here, right? And we're in New Zealand. And like, so you guys have I guess you guys have your founding document and you have all of your rights, right? So you have the freedom of speech, you have the freedom, all of these things that we watch on like YouTube shorts and all these things, and like people telling cops that, hey, nah, you can't ask for that. Do you have a warrant? No, I don't. No, I'm not going to provide you with my name. All of this stuff and like all of these rights that you guys have, just know none of that exists anywhere else. Like
Yeah, but
we don't have those
bro,
rights. We
bro,
don't have those rights, right?
you
It's
guys can also murder someone and be on house arrest a few months later and be back in society. Like there's some fucking quality differences between the US and New Zealand and probably other countries, but let's just say New Zealand for what we're talking about now. There's definitely some other things that you guys have that we don't have.
oh, for sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I think what you're saying is like
Your judicial system is like, yeah,
dog shit.
yeah, it's dog shit, right?
It's dog shit.
But again, like what you're talking about, like you also don't have guns and like the things that go on in the United States. So there's obviously big differences in the government and the structure and forefathers and how things have been created. And there's a reason that things are the way that they are in the United States because people fought to have what we have. But really, like you guys have a similar story in having to fight to keep your land. So it's crazy to me, like the differences in just the United States, New Zealand, and how much I've learned from you. And again, like you're saying, how much you've learned from us. But I think it's important too, like what you guys were talking about earlier during COVID. It was the first decision I made as soon as I saw what was coming was to sell my home in the city and to move away and to get in the woods on my own property, to go off grid, to build infrastructure of my own, to not be dependent on anybody else. Like those are all things that I made a decision to do because I saw what was coming, and it's not getting better. Like the world is not becoming a better place as we go. Things are getting worse. Like as each day goes by. Like prepare yourself for the worst to happen. And somebody mentioned something about like security and family and these things. Like security should be number one for you. Like if you don't have security, you don't have anything else. You don't have food. You don't have shelter because somebody will just come and take it from you. And it might be the government, it might be your neighbor. Like security should be the most important thing to you before anything else in your house, especially if you have a family. And especially as the man of the family, and I'm not trying to be like sexist, but like that's your job. Security for your family, security for self. So it's all the things you guys have been talking about, man, have struck a chord with me because I have kids. I have kids that were in a public school down in one county, and we moved to another county because they were pushing that transgender narrative. And the county I'm in now, they don't do that shit here. Like it doesn't fly. So sometimes like those life decisions have to be made for your family, for yourself, for security. And it's fucked right now. It's really bad. And it might get worse. Prepare for that.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Cheers, bro. Yeah, good contributions. Hey, I see Mike D's come up. Sorry, I haven't been looking at my phone, but I wanted to give Mike D an opportunity to just share his views on what we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, no, I was just I was listening to you guys talk before about the stuff with the child exploitation and stuff like that, and I think that what people fail to realize is like with the numbers, like actually seeing the children, like every one of those numbers that you see is actually a kid, and it's someone's child, and it's probably somebody who's poor who can't even do anything about their child being exploited like that. Like they're just probably like I would say most of them are even undocumented. And as far as the Disney thing goes, that is the craziest shit I've seen ever. I actually have like Disney timeshare that I almost can't even get rid of, and like the craziness that goes down there, like the men dressed like princesses and shit like that. The world is crazy. And like getting back to like what I was saying about the children being exploited. Like I brought my I brought my daughter to work one day, and I had to like explain to her why there were like toys in the room down the hall from my office, because the special victims unit is like literally 20 feet from the door of my office, where they have kids in there all the time that are being exploited, where we find them or whatever, and they put them in a comfortable area so they can talk to them. So they all have like toys there and stuff like that for the kids to make them more comfortable. And like my daughter, when I explained to her, was like 11, but I wasn't gonna lie to her because she needs to know how bad the world is. You can't hold things from them. But that's all I was gonna say.
That's fucking terrible, Mike. And just for context, people don't know Mike is a police officer. So you're probably way more exposed than the rest of us to actually see what's happening on the cold face. And like you're saying, like a lot of stuff's not reported. Like I guess maybe relying on some data and just like what you deal with on a daily basis. How bad do you think this problem is with child exploitation? Do you think it's over exaggerated, or do you think it's under exaggerated of what we see in the media?
I believe it's under exaggerated. I think that there's powerful people that are involved in it, like probably corrupt governments and stuff like that are pushing the shit that you'll never know how deep and like how many kids are being affected by it. Because you know what? The adults that are exploited, like the females and stuff, that's like triple too. And they're old enough to actually try to get out of it themselves. Children aren't. It's just human trafficking is a big, big thing. And I don't think people realize how big it is, especially in America now with the borders open the way they are. It's just I think it's always been that bad, but I think now with the way the governments are set up and how easy it is for people to move around, I think it's a lot bigger of a problem. But there's really nothing.
Insane, right? It's insane. It's crazy. It's like I'm just something very simple here, right? Like I search "Sound of Freedom." If you Google it, and then the number one listing will come up, right? And it's Sound of Freedom Rotten Tomatoes, and it's rated like only 57%. And the one that they're the review that they show is a thunderously crass and manipulative movie that is hampered by erratic pacing, pantomime bad guys, and an over fondness for shots of Caviezel weeping and being God fearing. Like that is the review
More
that
feelings.
they show.
Yeah, it's more feelings.
That's the review they show. But then when you actually go in and what are the audience are saying, it's like Sounds of Freedom is a powerful film with strong performances and important messages. So who's fucking controlling this narrative? Like I think that's like a classic example.
No, it's 100%. It's 100% like money. Wherever the money is, that's the story that gets told. I've been at scenes of like crime scenes and stuff that I've been involved in, and I've personally seen people tell like the media one thing, or I've been involved in it, and the complete opposite of the story's been told. But as far as like NYPD's policy is like, if I'm at a crime scene, unless I get permission from like the commissioner of public information, I can't share the story. You understand? I can't talk to the press. That's the way it works, like in New York City. Like I don't know how it is in law enforcement in other places, but usually you have to get permission from like the higher ups to even say anything. But regardless, like they twist the story the way that they want the media. It's been like that for years. So I don't even see that ever changing. Because that's how they control the narrative. That's how they get what they want. Like powerful people.
Yeah, I think you're spot
Well,
on, man. It's money. It eventually it comes down to money. Somebody's making money somewhere, and I think you're right. It's there's government officials, people in high places that are controlling part of this too, and there's money involved. And it's sad, man, because that's bullshit.
Yep. All it takes is for like a couple. I'm not saying like exactly, but like a couple of senators to get like 500,000, a million in their bank accounts. They look the other way on all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah. It's happening. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's happening. It's happened for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's interesting too, man, to hear you say when you talk about like we're the same way here in the I work at the state warning center in California, and it's like, yeah, we're not allowed to talk about anything, and we have like a PIO team that like if there's any information that needs to be shared, it has to be vetted through them first, and then you see what they've shared, and they've shared like snippets of information, not all of it, just the parts that they wanted to share.
yeah. No, it's crazy. I got called down about 7 months ago to be investigated because there was a crime scene where two people were executed and then burnt in a vehicle, and somehow the picture of the people that I took for the crime scene because I was handling it ended up on Facebook, and the parents of one of the victims made the complaint. So I have to do something called a PIW. It's a preliminary worksheet. It's the supervisors do it for like of detectives. So I explain the story, and it goes down to the chief, so they know exactly what's going on. It's not like it's like an abbreviated version of how the case is being run. So somebody in the system down there, wherever, in like the conglomerate of NYPD, whatever, took a picture of my PIW and put it out, and that's how it. That's like I got in trouble for it. Well, I didn't get in trouble for it. I got investigated for it, but they thought it was me. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, bro.
it's
It's crazy.
insanity.
It's crazy, man. I just went through this last week. I was just talking to Mark about it. We sent out an IMVV report, and somebody leaked it on Twitter, and they pulled us all into a meeting with DHS, FBI, like, and tried to like, yeah, run us through the ringer too. And thankfully we came out scot free, no wrongdoing. Somebody else, but yeah, it's crazy how something like that can quickly turn into bullshit.
Yeah. So I mean, and I know it has somebody's get leaking money like probably getting paid for like information from the press, wherever it is, whether it's in the mayor's office or wherever it is. It might not even be in the police department, but it is what it is. There's always going to be leaks and there's always going to be problems. But as far as you guys were talking about the Second Amendment, I like growing up. My father always had weapons because I guess he was a Vietnam vet, and as a cop, I believe everybody should be able to be armed. I just think that they should be aware of the responsibility that if you're armed and you're encountered by a law enforcement, you have to be on a higher level of behavior than other people. It's just a responsibility that you have.
Yeah, 100%,
It's the same thing
man.
like it's the same thing like me. If I'm encountered and I'm in plain clothes, like they put us through weeks of training, like off duty encounters, because we've had off duty cops get killed because they don't respond the right way. So I just think that like people who carry guns need to know that you have a target on your back once you carry your gun. Unfortunately, if you don't like act the right way when you're encountered,
Yeah, yeah, it's
but
part of the
to defend
class.
the family, I 100% agree. Everybody should be able to defend their family.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good points, man.
I
I
have a
appreciate you
good
coming up
saying,
this
and
week.
that's I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So when it comes to decision time, make sure you make the right decision. If you feel like your life or someone that of your family's in danger, don't hesitate.
Yep.
And when you shoot them dead. That way, it's just your side of the story. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So yeah, Mike, thanks for coming up, man. Glad to have you up speaking with us tonight, and thank you for your service and what you do, man. Especially in NYC, bro. It's I know it's crazy out there.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I got a question for you real quick.
What's up?
Hey, brother. So I've been hearing, of course, in the news about a court case that just got passed up there about giving the authorities in New York the right to detain somebody and to hold them indefinitely if if it has to do with public safety. Have you heard
Oh, you're
anything about
talking
that?
about with mental illness?
I'm not sure. I didn't get that far into the article, but it was just something that just happened the last couple of days. So I guess it's
I don't
some.
know exactly what you're talking about. I know they've been trying to pass laws in regards to like mental illness because it's honestly it's without putting them in jail, which I don't know if they belong in jail or whatever, but there's really nothing you can do with people that are sick because they don't want to take their medicine. They don't want to like live civilized. So I think they're trying to pass laws where they can detain them and have them institutionalized.
Yeah, and that to me that's scary because that infringes upon people's rights, and
Yeah.
they
No,
could also say,
I
well,
believe
you
that
didn't
too.
get the COVID
I would
shot,
rather
so
just arrest them for a crime and put them
yeah,
inside for a little bit, and hopefully they go to the hospital when they're in prison, and then have them released like a week later. Than putting somebody away for God knows how long because some shrink tells you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's a fine line because someone's family could put somebody away if they don't agree with them.
yeah, all good points.
Yeah, Gary, I think you're even thinking of they were treating a law passed that allowed a government, and if they deemed it you were ill, whether I'm not sure about the mental side of uh, disease or whatever they determined that would be, it literally, without caution, pull you out, quarantine you indefinitely, you know, even force you to take experimental medications without your consent.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty scary to me. That infringes upon your fundamental rights, as well as they can influence their opinion upon you. I mean, look how fast people turned against one another for those that did not take the vax shot, right? Like Howard Stern and all these other cats out there, media. You know, they're like, yeah, if you don't got your COVID card, you can't go to the freaking clinic, or you can't go into the grocery store, or what I'm saying? It's just another level of control, and I find it disgusting.
Yeah, you're right, guys. And I think going back, I mean, I'll jump back a few things, but Mike Shipro, yeah, I really respect what you're doing with that work, man. That's friggin' pretty intense, dude. But I was saying something about Austria, just to talk about what you're talking about there, Gary, and we saw it as well. But in Austria, if you didn't get vaccinated and you were found without your passport, it was essentially like a $2,000 immediate fine. So yeah, it's quite scary to think, Mike, about what's happening with that mental health stuff, where essentially you can get people locked up. But we've also had something over here, and people are sort of debating it, but it's gone through. Is also the thing around euthanasia. Is also another one where, I mean, it's the right to die on your own terms, right? That's the argument for it, and so it is now part of our law, but there's quite a few people opposed to it because they're saying essentially your family can just get rid of you, if they want you gone a bit quicker. And so there's all these sorts of things. But hey, I think we start to wrap this up. Well, I was actually given some really awesome food for thought for tomorrow's space. We will be cracking into Let's Get Phygital episode 5. I think we're going to go deep on maybe some related topics. But yeah, before we wrap up, I just wanted to give any of the speakers if anybody wants to have final word, and just jump on up and we'll do the rounds and then let's bug out.
Yeah, I'll go first. I just want to thank everybody who joined us tonight for some interesting conversation. The fact that we're able to have some similar ideas, different ideas, have an open forum and discussion about it. I think that's the biggest thing, the freedom of just being able to have and connect on a space and share these thoughts, Thank you, Mark.
All good, all good. Sounds like we're done. So yeah, thank you to yourself, Vince, Sam, Paul, Surfer Dude, Gary, Leo, and Mike D. Awesome chatting, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. And we're going to find. Not all the discussions will be political. I guess this is quite political / social, but we'll also go, specifically and deep onto different cryptos as well. We're going to be running Let's Get Phygital on some XRP as well. So yeah, there's plenty to discuss. And thanks for turning up, guys, and we'll see everybody later.
Night, everybody.
Yep. Good night, everyone.
See you.
Shoot, we'll be over on the Zeno server by Dopeface Labs if you want to come over and hang out. See you later.